Alright guys, who's ready for Wild Mouse Coaster? Welcome to Beer in a Theme Park, a show where we talk about a theme park and drink a beer. Only this is not a beer, but that's okay. Today we're talking about Wild Mouse Coaster and everything that we know so far about it. It's obviously not open yet. Even employees are not allowed near it. There's a lot of stuff that still needs to be happening, and we're going to talk about that a little bit. I can't tell you anything about the experience except for my own conjecture about it. But I can talk with you about everything that Cedar Point has released so far, and a few things that not everybody knows that I was told specifically about it during one of our meetings at Winter Chill Out. So I hope you're ready. I hope you're excited. Let's go! Just to open up, we're going to start with exactly what Cedar Point says about this coaster. The very first thing on their website says, Cedar Point's legacy of amazing roller coaster experiences continues with the new Wild Mouse roller coaster. A twisting family thrill for coaster lovers young and young at heart. With a nod to the original Wild Mouse coaster, the modern Wild Mouse has it all. Hills, twists, dives, and hairpin turns as you play an unpredictable game of cat and mouse in your quest to capture the cheese. So, I definitely think that this is going to be fun, and one big part of it is that it is a throwback coaster, and that's a huge part of the theme of this entire area. So this is the new boardwalk. So obviously you have an actual boardwalk out on the lake where you can walk back and forth, but this is the new boardwalk at Cedar Point, which I think is really exciting. There's lots of area right there that's been completely redone, re-landscaped, a couple new rides put in, the new pavilion, and then they've relocated a couple rides from near where Corkscrew is right now. Now, this coaster has 6 different cars that are all mouse-shaped, and then it has one car that is a piece of cheese. And that's what we're chasing. That sounds just like my life. It's definitely a family-style attraction, and it definitely fits into that boardwalk theme and that throwback theme that they have for the area. So I'm definitely excited about all of that. I think it's going to be a really nice place to hang out, and especially for someone with a child, I think that's huge. There are 4 seats, and the thing that I think not most people know at this point is it's going to be a moving walkway. So it's almost like going onto the Haunted Mansion. Like you're going to go onto a pathway that's actually moving. So the ride itself will also be moving. It never stops, which just keeps people being loaded as fast as possible. We'll get into that a little bit more in a minute here because I am a little bit concerned about some of the experience with that. But we'll talk about that in a little bit. Now, each car has 4 different seats in it, so it is a family-style attraction. Like, you can ride it with the whole family there, which is definitely exciting. The height requirement is actually 48 inches, but 42 inches or higher can ride it as long as they have an adult present with them. Or I guess the website says a supervising companion, so obviously that wouldn't have to be an adult, but someone 48 inches taller or higher. The ride is 52 feet high, and it is 35 miles per hour at its highest. So obviously not either the fastest or the tallest at all of these. However, it is the tallest of this type of coaster. And it is 1 minute and 10 seconds for the duration of this ride. Now, Cedar Point is calling this their 18th coaster, and they're calling it their 18th coaster because it is technically the 18th coaster in existence in the park, but that's also counting Top Thrill Dragster. So Top Thrill Dragster is obviously not actually moving right now. You can't actually ride it. So I really wouldn't count that as the other coaster at Cedar Point. So really I would say it's the 17th, but obviously Cedar Point is saying 18th right now. Now, I was able to actually get onto one of these rides, and that's definitely exciting. The really fun thing about this entire thing, during Winter Chill Out, we were told that it is going to be handicap accessible. So that's something that's very rare among Cedar Point rides. I do think you'll have to be able to transfer yourself from like whatever kind of handicapped vehicle you're in onto the ride itself. But you can do that, and they can stop the track also. Also, there's this video that I have from Zamperla where you can actually see the ride moving by. Now, this Zamperla video that we have, this is not specifically of this ride, but it is of the model, exactly. So you can see everything on it, but you can see the walking path and that the path is moving. And you can also see where they would be able to stop it in that same area. So if you have someone with some difficulty, then they can be stopped. The ride track itself can be stopped. Not for every ride, but they can stop for anybody who's handicapped or has difficulty getting on the ride. There is also an extra little slot where you can open it so that people could get on and off easier if there are limitations on movement and stuff like that, which I do think is really, really exciting. The seatbelt harnesses go down over your legs, so obviously you would need to have, the appropriate appendages to keep you in the ride, but you do have no additional redundant harness or anything like that on this ride. That doesn't really even bother me at all because this is such a simple ride. It's one of those where you're really going to rely on the ride itself and the G-forces of the ride to hold you in anyway. Probably it would be relatively safe one way or another, even if you didn't have a harness. Not that I'm saying they shouldn't have a harness. They absolutely should. But without that second redundant harness, it's actually going to move a lot faster because all you have to do is just put it down and then go. So I do think that'll be really fun. Now, this ride does have all the air marks of a normal Wild Mouse coaster, but to me, it looks more exciting than that, and I'm very excited about that. It has a lot of those moments where you kind of go up a hill on the side and then come back down and then go back up another hill, but you're never going up the hill just like a lot of times these Wild Mouse coasters have a lot of just ups and downs like this, and a lot of times they hurt like crazy. In this case, there's nothing like that. So I'm definitely excited to have some of these more swoopy sides on it to go up and down. I think that'll be more fun. It'll be a smoother experience and it'll feel more comfortable than most of the Wild Mouse coasters that I've had. Now, let's talk about my reservations just a little bit because I do have a few. I'm very worried that this ride is going to make me sick. There have been a couple of mocked up POVs, and there is one right here made by G-Force Productions on YouTube. You should definitely go check them out for some fun, no limits stuff, creating coasters in a game. So definitely, it looks like a lot of fun to me. But even watching the ride itself, all that spinning is like, oh, it starts to make me feel kind of sick because you don't really know where you're going. It's a lot of just spinning randomly, and there is no way to tell what's going to happen. So this is both a pro and a con. I'm excited that every ride will be different. I think that's really fun, and it's an experience that Cedar Point doesn't really have. Most rides that you have, especially coasters, have a consistent experience for every single time. There's nothing that's really variable about the Cedar Point experience, especially when it comes to riding rides, with the exception of maybe riding Top Thrill Dragster and maybe getting a rollback from time to time, which is always an exciting thing. Although for me, I feel like it would be terrifying, but even that's going away now. Whatever they're doing, seems like they're going to be getting rid of that rollback element, that potential rollback element to Cedar Point's Top Thrill Dragster. So even with that, they don't have it anymore. But this will be variable on every single time. So dependent upon the weight of your people that are in the car, dependent on the way the air moves and what kind of wind you're having, dependent on how much, moisture is in the air or whatever, there's going to be different things that are going to happen. You can experiment with your family on, putting dad to the right or putting dad to the left and seeing if it spins more. Well, just what's going to happen dependent upon what you have. If you have a more even distribution of weight, is that going to do something different? We have no idea at this point, but it does seem like it's going to be different every time, which will probably be exciting. But for someone like me, it also might be a little bit terrifying. So I don't like to go backwards, and there are multiple points where you may end up going backwards on this ride. So that does look a little bit scary to me. I think it'll also be fun. It's obviously not an incredibly intense coaster, and it is only 1 minute and 10 seconds. I can put up with pretty much anything for 1 minute and 10 seconds, so that's probably not an issue. However, another small fear that I have of this ride is that it's going to be very difficult to load. So you're going to have a lot of time waiting for this ride to load, and that is something that scares me. You know, only having 7 cars, having large lines, and having a lot of people trying to get into them, especially as the ride is new. You know, I don't think this will be a long-lasting, always having a long line kind of a situation. This isn't a record breaker. This isn't a coaster that's done everything brand new and is really one that everyone wants to try because they want to dare themselves to ride it. A lot of people will ride it once with their families, or they'll just ride it one time with their friends and get the credit. I don't even like that term, but get the credit, and then they'll just move on. They won't worry about it anymore. So I don't think it'll have long lines, even probably not throughout the entirety of this year. It'll probably have long lines at the beginning of the year, and then those will kind of wane off throughout the year. Watch me be wrong. We'll see. But I'm imagining it's not going to be a huge numbers drawer for the entire year, and definitely not for subsequent years beyond now. This won't be a Valraven kind of a situation. But I do think that it's going to be fun, and I think it'll be something to enjoy with your family. But I'm not sure that it needs to draw massive lines for it to get massive lines. It's not going to have a huge capacity. 4 people per vehicle is not much. And when you consider like Millennium Force with 3 trains and with coaster enthusiasts are going to kill me with something like 8 to 10 cars, something like that. Tell me down in the comments why I'm wrong. I'm sure there's more than that or less than that. I don't know, and you're going to be mad at me. But tell me down in the comments why you're mad at me then. But because of that, you have 3 trains, and you have a much larger capacity for each of those trains. But in this case, you're going to have 7 trains, which sure is twice the trains, but each of those is also not going to have anywhere near the 10 cars that they have on Millennium Force right now. So you're not going to have nearly as many people being loaded on this ride at a time. And that's a problem. I'm very worried about how long this line is going to be and how long you're going to have to wait for it to get on. Partly this is my experience coming back at me from Carowinds, because the Wild Mouse coaster there I thought was best to ride in the mornings, because the second that it gets a long line, it keeps a long line throughout the rest of the day until the very end of the evening. So if you ride it very, very quickly, you can get on it and move to something else real fast. I think that's going to be a very similar situation with this ride, because it is going to be that low capacity. A lot of people are going to be wanting to ride it, especially at the beginning of the year, and it's going to potentially draw some massive lines that are really going to have some difficulty getting, satiated and filled up, and getting people back out of line and going to other places where they can get on the rides faster, where capacity is better. So that's definitely a concern for me. I do think that that could be a problem. Cedar Point 2 weeks ago did start its first testing on Wild Mouse, and to be sure, they did complete this ride really fast this year. Obviously, it's kind of like a big box coaster. It's not really one where they spent a lot of creative time and energy creating this very exclusive, very fun ride. It is a ride that you can buy for any park. I do think Cedar Point is kind of the test run for it. I don't think anybody else has gotten this ride yet. So I do think Cedar Point is the first, but any other park, like Indiana Beach, could get this ride pretty easily. So it's one where it's not really going to be an exclusive crazy ride for Cedar Point specifically. Also, it's pretty clear that they really did create this ride for Cedar Point. Even in the Zamperla video that I have for it, you can see a beach right like the same amount of feet away from the beach that it is at Cedar Point. It's pretty clear that it's like earmarked for that idea. Of course, it can go any other place, but it's pretty clear that they were like, yeah, this one's going to Cedar Point first, so let's just mock it up with like a beach, 200 feet away in the same way that it is at Cedar Point also. That being said, this has nothing to do with the manufacturer or anything like that, but I am concerned about the area where this ride is going to be in. So far, even in the video that I have of 2 weeks ago from Cedar Point fan page, it does seem like there is almost no road put out in front of it, no cement, nothing like that, and that was 2 weeks ago. Cedar Point is opening in less than 2 weeks right now. So that does give them about a month from the date of this video, or maybe a little bit earlier than the date of this video, to have created additional stuff in there. So there's not much there. Now, maybe that has to do more with secrecy than it has to do with not having an area to walk through or to drive through in that area. But it does concern me that the pathways may not be completed, that the landscaping may not be completed, that the rides may not be completed right there. It scares me for opening day. If I'm concerned about it, I'm sure they are also. So, I guess we'll see what happens if that actually gets open or not in time for opening day this year. Other than those two different things, I'm excited about this experience. I do think it'll be fun. I don't think it's going to be some lasting, massive boost to Cedar Point. I think that's going to come next year, and that's okay. It's all right to have something that's a little bit smaller, that can help to add to your family-friendly experience. That is not a bad thing for Cedar Point at all, and it's something that I appreciate as a dad. So of course I don't mind that at all, but I'm excited about riding this ride and experiencing it for the first time. It's been a while since I've experienced a first at Cedar Point, so I'm definitely excited about that. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Is this something exciting to you, or is this something you've decided you hate? Let me know. I'd love to hear from you guys down in the comments, and especially if you write something really well developed, I'd love to pin it up to the top. I like to do that, especially with people who have opinions that run a little bit contrary to me, because obviously my opinion is not the only one. So thank you guys so much for watching today. I'd love to hear from you guys down in the comments. Please press that like button, and please also subscribe if you haven't yet. I'm setting a goal. We're going to get 5,000 by the end of June. If we get 5,000 by the end of June, then I'll do something. I'm not sure what it is. We'll leave it up to Patreon to decide. Also, you can go check out my Patreon if you would like to support this channel. I really appreciate it. I like to bring news to you guys and all that kind of stuff, and especially current things that are happening at Cedar Point. And if you appreciate that, the tips and tricks and all that kind of stuff, I'd love to have you guys on the team and come hang out with us on Patreon. There's also additional content and all that kind of stuff. I'm about to upload 2 videos that have previously never seen the light of day, only onto Patreon. They're back from my Disney days, years ago. But go check it out if you'd like to. So anyway, thank you guys so much for watching, and let's go!